Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a genuinely fascinating thought experiment drawn directly from our source material. We're asking a massive question. What would society actually look like if it were run entirely by pure logic and optimization? We're going to completely break down the mechanics of this hypothetical world step by step, keeping it super simple, to see exactly how it works, how it thrives, and honestly, what it might cost us. Okay, so picture this. A world with absolutely zero politicians. None. Zip. No exhausting multi-year campaigns, no billion-dollar attack ads, no late-night fundraising, and definitely no money in politics as we know it today. Instead of electing leaders based on, their charisma, debate skills, or tribal identity, what if we just scrapped all that unpredictable human leadership and replaced the whole shebang with math? Now, to really grasp how wild this is, just think about how our world operates right now. We rely so heavily on persuasion, compromise, and balancing all these deeply emotional interests. We debate, we argue, we feel things strongly. But a purely logical civilization, it views all that emotion and human passion as inefficient friction. It's literally a bug in the system. They replace it entirely with optimization and hard data. They do not care about the theater of personality or winning the daily news cycle. They only care about systemic, mathematical efficiency. So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're looking at 5 key areas: a world run by math, laws functioning as software updates, pricing things by energy, a life without work, and finally, the ultimate cost of pure logic. All right, let's jump straight into section 1. A world run by math, or governance by algorithm. The entire foundation of the society is a concept called algocracy. Governance is handled totally by a transparent, decentralized algorithm. Think of it like a giant planetary smart thermostat that just constantly regulates the world. There are no kings, no presidents, no prime ministers. There are only optimizers. These are basically engineers and data scientists whose single job is to audit the open source code and make sure the data feeding the system is perfectly accurate. They aren't making policy, they're just doing maintenance on the machine that makes the policy. So what is this code actually trying to do? Well, our sources describe their core algorithm, the global utility function, as playing for a kind of video game high score. It has 4 incredibly clear pillars: maximize stability, maximize efficiency, maximize knowledge, and minimize systemic risk. That's it. That is the entire constitution. If a proposed rule increases efficiency and stability, but maybe slightly lowers knowledge, the system just calculates the net gain. If the math says it's a net positive, boom, the rule happens instantly across the grid. And this part is wild because it perfectly illustrates how voting works when you don't have physical ballots. You don't go line up at a polling station once every 4 years. You vote with your biology. The system continuously monitors biometric stress levels across the entire population. Imagine a city where a new traffic pattern causes a collective spike in cortisol. The algorithm treats that biological stress as a massive negative vote on the current environment, and it just automatically adjusts the infrastructure settings to fix the gridlock. It is real-time, involuntary biological voting. Moving right along to Section 2, laws as software updates and the end of gridlock. You know how in our world we have these sticky laws? A law gets passed and it might just sit on the books for decades, even if it's a completely demonstrable failure, mostly because politicians just refuse to admit they were wrong. Well, a logical government treats laws exactly like software updates. They rely entirely on A/B testing. If a new transportation policy is pushed to District A, and the data immediately shows it is exactly 4.2% less efficient than the old policy, it's just uninstalled, rolled back automatically within hours. No debates, no filibusters, absolutely no bruised egos. And this radically objective mindset extends fully into the justice system. Get this. They completely eliminate the concept of retribution. No prisons, no punishment. Instead, a crime is viewed simply as a system malfunction that needs debugging. Justice is just a step-by-step error correction process. Step 1, detect the malfunction. Step 2, analyze the root cause. Like, did this person steal because of a lack of resources, a neurochemical imbalance, or just a fundamental logic error? And Step 3, recalibrate. They provide targeted education, medical intervention, or a resource adjustment to fix the broken human node. It is entirely 100% clinical. That brings us to Section 3, pricing things by energy and the absolute death of money. To really get this economy, we have to talk about thermodynamic accounting. This completely replaces our traditional price tags based on human supply and demand. Think of it like a strict scientific recipe card that prices things purely by physical reality. The true cost of an item is simply the exact sum of its raw materials, the physical energy required to manufacture it, and the environmental risk it poses. It literally deletes human hype, artificial scarcity, marketing, and desire from the price entirely. And because currency here is tethered strictly to finite physical energy and raw materials, rather than central banks printing paper money out of thin air, the inflation rate is a completely solved mathematical error. It sits permanently at absolute zero. Your purchasing power never, ever degrades. Just imagine the profound psychological relief of never worrying about your groceries doubling in price over a few years, which naturally leads to the death of branding. In our current setup, we might pump out 100 different variations of a cheap plastic toy, burning immense resources just to see which brand wins market share. It creates massive carbon waste and endless marketing noise. A logical society views that as literal economic sabotage. Instead, they calculate the single most developmentally beneficial toy for a child's brain, and they only manufacture that one. Zero waste, pure utility, and they completely bypass the trillions of dollars we spend on advertising. All right, into section 4 we go. A life without work, or the labor paradox. The sources map out this post-scarcity society where the very concept of working for a living is actually seen as highly inefficient. It's wild. Humans are logically barred from doing physical tasks because machines can just execute them with infinitely better precision. And because humans aren't working, wealth isn't something you earn. Resources are just optimally distributed to keep everyone at peak physical and cognitive health. Plus, there's no stock market to place bets on the future. Because everything is perfectly data-driven and predictable, financial risk is effectively zero. And in a world with zero risk, interest rates completely disappear. The paradigm shift here is just massive. Our human economy runs on a desperate need for endless growth and profit. It's fueled by want-based consumption, which generates incredibly high levels of waste. The logical economy flips the script entirely. It replaces all of that with a system driven exclusively by stability and efficiency. It's fueled only by absolute physical and psychological needs, resulting in near zero waste. It's incredibly stable, perfectly balanced, and highly sustainable, totally bypassing the exhausting boom and bust cycles we live through. Finally, let's look at Section 5, the cost of pure logic and the human element. Here's where things get a bit heavy. The source material brings up a really fascinating, honestly kind of terrifying dilemma that strikes right at our core values. You see, logic can only tell you how to achieve a goal. It cannot tell you what that goal should be. If the ultimate programmed goal is just survival and efficiency, what happens to fairness? Like if the algorithm calculates that a specific minority of highly intelligent people must forcefully work twice as hard to ensure the survival of everyone else, it would just implement it, without a second thought. Meaning true fairness might not actually exist in this world. It might just be completely overwritten by cold, calculating efficiency. Which leaves us with this massive, provocative thought to wrap up our explainer. Think about it. In a civilization entirely stripped of friction, flaws, emotional debates, and chaos, in a world where every single resource is perfectly accounted for by a flawlessly smart algorithm, is there actually any room left for hobbies that produce absolutely nothing? For happy accidents? Or for the beautiful, unpredictable, and messy reality of simply being human?